I'm starting the stream, by the way, if that's okay. Cool.
Um, yeah, so I think it tracks that there's like arriving versus building like different um something above, motivation and factivation, like some category as you were
Well,
saying up there.
it would be orientation. So think of it that way. So like motivation. I'm just saying
Okay.
that activation lives next to motivation. They aren't motivation doesn't have two types. I think it's better to say that
Oh,
motivation and factivation are two types of orientation.
okay. That's good to know. Um, so and it's really interesting, like that you said orientation, because there's this designer who has this framework for how we can co-create better.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that we should be disoriented. But if you look at orientation motivically, that could make sense there.
Yeah.
Anyway, what I was getting at before was like thinking about, where I would fit in a healthy society. I don't know if it'd be like creating big theories like you're doing, or if it'd be more the like seeing how things work for a specific person
Yeah.
and like where, are getting stuck, how are, people's experiences different, and then bringing that to someone like you. That feels like skill.
To work out these abstract
There he
level.
is.
Can you hear me? Dang it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now we can.
Until those last three words, no.
Poopy. Oh, my OBS ate shit for a sec. Okay, that's why.
Oh, that explains it.
Wow. Okay. Well, what I was saying was like philosophy is a funny field to me because like it's objective should make it obsolete. Like if it succeeds, it no longer exists as a field because you know what the nature of reality is, and it's not really going to change unless you get a reality changing gun. But I don't think we're going to do that. So well, actually, mirror. What is that? The mirror cells or something? Those are what are those things? Those. Anyways, there's some cells that can like be.
Mirror neurons?
They're not mirror neurons. They're these there's these horrible cells. If we make them, they're like reverse of the spiral that is in our universe, and so it's like a mirror universe. I don't know. Anyways, if we make them, it will probably cause diseases that we can't cure or have anything that. Yeah. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Okay, that's a science tidbit I destroyed. So what I was saying was, um, we won't have a reality destroying gun if philosophy succeeds. It's kind of made itself obsolete. Same thing with what I'm doing. Like if in a well set up world, I shouldn't have to be doing this. I would just be doing like smaller or I guess more specific examples. I would be doing ballet probably and like musicy
Yeah.
stuff. I don't know. Like probably a lot of ballet is what I would have liked to have done. But that isn't what the world set me up to be able to do. So I'm
Mm.
trying to fix it up at the level that it's
Yeah.
broken. So that's the only reason I'm doing it.
Mhm.
And like I don't even know why my brain wants to, but it does. And since it does, and I'm pro-social, I'm like, well, then I have to try because I don't know how many
Right.
are going to want to do this, even if they can.
Right. I feel that. And so a conflict that I feel is so like the way things work in tech companies or used to is like there'd be the more visionary people at the top putting things together, and then there'd be people like what my last jobs were, testing things with users and seeing like what their experiences are like, what's working, what's not working. And I find that when I try to do the big pic, like, because there's already strategy work
Mm-hmm.
that goes into like how to do that research, like what questions to ask, what to focus on. Like that's already a senior role there, which
Mm-hmm.
is under like the people doing the vision, or sometimes it's like more lateral, but in terms of the what gets done decision making, it's like more under. And so if I try to go up that to that third level of like um conceptualizing what's happening like overall, I lose like my ability to be present with people in that learning, you know, that like individual contributor boots on the ground role that I would want to have, my brain is not able to be there as much when I'm trying to do all of the above. Now, maybe I may be able to like compartmentalize, maybe like set more boundaries in conversation. Like for this half an hour, I'm just going to do this. But I do feel now this isn't a decision that I need to make right away, but I feel like eventually I'll need to decide, do I want to do that, or do I want to like be the person collecting like examples of when communication was better during the pandemic, and then like let do like some synthesis of like pattern matching, which like I'm good at that, and then let people who've studied like anthropology
Yeah.
and sociology and stuff like you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and so in a better organized environment, right, with tools that help you to get the information you need, it would be a lot faster for you to get the part of anthropology that you need clear for you. So now, right now the problem is, this is what Lakoff talks about with his metaphors. You can't learn a concept if you don't understand something analogous about it within your own experiences and memories. So if you have to make like 50 conceptual metaphor hops to get to something, that's not efficient, and it's also not really using your knowledge as well as it could be. So there's probably a way to get you there in 2. Maybe not a perfect one, but one that you're at least going to be able to do. And that's a kind of interest or orientation that also lets you stay in factivic and da da da. So in an ideal society, you would have more knowledge, but it would be fleshed out by analogous structures more than what we currently do.
Wow. Okay. That is literally like what I've been trying to do this year, is like learn about fields that are tangentially related to what I've done, because my field is collapsing, and like what's being done there, and like I really want to understand like on a factivic level, how do these things fit? But there's also the motivic, like how is work done there? One, to figure out what are the biases, what are the holes on a factivic level.
Yeah.
And 2, like to see if I really want to consider working in that field.
Yes.
Because like, what do they value?
Do they reward factivic also? Like if they well, let me say that. I'll state that over. Do they punish factivic because they think they need to motivate you? Because that's one of the problems that I've seen even in fields that are kind of spread out in my own weird history. Yeah, so that's a problem, because they can't tell you that or not, because they're not aware of this.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, one idea that I had earlier today was like to look into how different fields approach research, and like put that in some kind of doc which I could share, and I'd love to have a suggested donation, because that would take a lot of work.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, like because something that I've seen is a lot of people like I've been in multiple conversations within the last couple weeks about what is pseudoscience versus science, and a lot of people draw these lines about like, this field is pseudoscience, and then like another person says this field is pseudoscience, and that's the thing that's true. And so actually in before I'm debating whether to bring something up. No, I won't I won't connect the dots because I don't want anyone to get a lotness. So I heard from someone who had done research on higher education and accommodations for autistic people. And I just said I'd like to look at work in that field because I didn't know that was a thing that's being done. And they said that this study was like anthropology, so smaller sample, and not, the standard that exists in other fields. And that kind of inspired it of like, okay, it could be good to like lay out what are the standards in these different fields, and then like
Yep.
what kind of biases can come along with that, and like make that a crowdsourced kind of thing.
Well, the biases are also, so this is why I use the framework I do. The biases and the inner ring, why I like that piece. The biases may be signaling that you have gone to the same places as them, because if you really dig into some fields, if you so this is the reason why polymaths can be valuable. If you dig into enough disparate fields that you absolutely know are not talking to each other because they've said redundant things and they're both clinging to this as like the theory, I'm like, well, they both can't be simultaneously the theory because you've suggested different mechanisms that would contradict this other guy, or you're implying that's only relevant to more than that. What happens is they imply it's only relevant to their field of study. I'm like, do you know these guys over here are describing the same concept? So why aren't you talking to each other and exchanging notes? Even that's more the problem. Usually the contradictions, and I may not have the level of knowledge to really like slice into it, but you can kind of tell that's happening too. And sometimes it's obvious. The other problem is that like the term scientist, I got to learn recently, was coined because of a woman, because she was contributing to science, and she was an eccentric who basically taught herself up to a certain point and then was able to get taught in institutions in her 30s. Okay, so she was a polymath. She was an astronomer. She mathematically predicted Neptune's existence. She's an interesting person. And the term before that was a man of science. So I want to note that the term scientist itself, first it was given to, it was proposed by a philosopher, not a scientist, not a man of science. It was proposed by a philosopher who knew her. Because he wanted to describe people who work across scientists. I don't know why it's doing that today.
I love technology.
I don't know, man. Like, what is... Okay, let me try to see if I can shut anything down. Maybe there's something eating up juice that I don't need. I don't know. Okay, but... So as I was saying, so just to finish my little Mary Somerville thing, because I'm reading her biography right now. The term was proposed because it would be analogous to artist. So that's why it's got the ist at the end. Scientist, artist. So it's trying to describe people that did a lot, just like you would with an artist. You wouldn't just say a painter. Artist kind of implies there's more going on there and that their research is more comprehensive. So I think it's kind of ironic that now we've taken the sciences, that the scientist is the person awarded by the sciences with the magical, you have done the things we want you to do. Not to say that peer contributions aren't essential, but you have a problem when people are not becoming peers who should be. And when you're kind of polymathically looking at this, you're like, you really should be talking to each other, and I do not know why you haven't figured that out, besides that you aren't reading each other's stuff.
Right. Actually, something I heard about this recently was someone mentioned systems thinking when this came up in a conversation, and apparently there used to be a lot more interdisciplinary talk in the 1980s. But then he had mentioned some aspects of like some of the big theories or approaches in systems thinking, and one of them is root cause analysis. Another is observing behavior over time. And I've seen ways those things have been done that were very biased, very arriving. Like, pick like the first explanation, reality test it a tiny bit and go with it, and then keep going until something else breaks, which can work potentially in some situations, like if the system is mostly functional and just needs to be bandaged sometimes. But when we're realizing like that math, some theory that comes up in math tells us that language is broken. Huh? What's the scope we need to look at? Like, I don't know if looking back to when did things break and, just rebuilding the thing from there would work in that kind of context.
So the reason, okay, I have an opinion about this because I like neurolinguistic approaches to solving problems. Okay, in the field broadly of like cognitive science that cares about language and how it develops, there's arguments about how language really works in the brain that are still ongoing, right? So you can't say that changing words will do this specific thing to the brain. You're not at that point. However, because language adds context and language emerges in context, that's why I ended up liking post-structuralism. So you go back not because the word broke, but because it has baggage. That the only way it could exist is in this conceptual universe that has these other constellations of ideas that are definitely wrong and or are buttressing up other instances of that bad idea that have their own jurisdiction in the world that you live in. Like if they're acting on your world. So those are like if you think of it as like the same color palette, it's like shading the world and biasing the world towards interpreting that inaccurate model as legitimate, because your term is coming out of it, actually. Like you wouldn't have thought of that term or that way of phrasing or situating it without that model inspiring it. So that's why you should look at it anthropologically and kind of have a sense of like human behaviors over time and in larger groups, which we don't do a really good job of recording because we're recording it based on like propaganda and who's winning. And so it's exhausting to realize that's necessary, but it doesn't mean it's not important, because I think the words cluster for us, so they create a zeitgeist that the person then is in agreement with, and that's a problem because it limits their imagination.
For sure. And I see that a lot now, where like spaces that used to be in a round table, like let's discuss what's going on a couple of years ago, or like during the pandemic, have now turned into it's like there's this current of the zeitgeist in this subculture. And even a lot of small groups kind of end up copying behaviors from this, like even if they're trying to be different intentionally. And it becomes like anything is either pulled in and like reframed without, like, if I'm the person sharing this new observation, I may not realize it's being reframed, like because of the pace here. So either it validates what they already believe, or it doesn't fit, they deem it irrelevant, we'll get to disability later, that kind of thing.
And that's where we get into the problem of like apparent disagreements, which I was talking about I think last week, where like you're not even like talking about something in the same sense, but they've already projected onto it or distorted, and they're not able to realize there's a distortion there, because the distortion is a requirement for them to maintain their model. They have to, like, or basically the model. Well, that's the thing. They don't have enough analogous things to jump to your metaphor, so they just think you're crazy, which is a serious problem. The more you develop this alternative way of, how do I play this? Let me put that differently. Like you're suggesting you live in a different universe than they are suggesting you live in. And the more you refine your suggestion, the more you're going to be at odds with the dominant group right now, specifically because they've used dominance to prove that they're right, like dominating physically and threatening and all that stuff. So they use a lot of social weapons as well as like actual weapons even to make sure that you don't make them feel stupid. So I think people have interpreted the inability to jump metaphorically over as I'm dumb. And if I'm being told that I'm dumb, now I'm going to be lower on this hierarchy thing, and I need to know about hierarchies because we've created a system that does arrive. So it kind of, you see it, like, this is why it's so fascinating, is it makes sense. Like, it would self-reinforce to the point that it feels kind of stable, and people can bank on this as the right model of reality, but it incapacitates the thing that you need to test reality, and then that leaves us with like a functional disability.
Right.
Like, we need to be able to test reality on this level, and you're not even able to tell people about reality.
Yeah. I really feel that. Yeah. Yeah, I really appreciate everything you've shared. Definitely lots to think about and look over.
Oh, I have
I
a
don't know if
first time chat.
Ooh.
You're a youngin', I think, but hello and welcome in. We discuss a pretty complex theory of autism that I'm working on. Well, I don't know if it's complex. It's just in depth. And we work on cleaning our spaces. And if you are autistic, you're of course welcome. If you want to learn about autism, you are welcome. If you're just curious, you can always stop by and see what it is. If I know you from somewhere, hello. Nice to see you. And yeah, I've been working on this for like 5 years as like a little stream thing, and then my theory I've been working on really intensely. I'd say 5 to 2, but last 2 years, and I'm working on a paper, which I'm going to be in crunch mode on that because I need to get all my sources. I think you're young. Maybe you're not young, but that was my guess too. Tell me if I'm wrong. I like to call myself Shitty Sherlock Holmes. I am on the case, and I don't know where the case is.
I love that. But yeah, that's really cool. You've been working on the paper for 2 years. Like, props to you.
Yeah, it's all in a million Google Docs, so that's been fun to try to get that together and to relocate sources that I didn't record that I had, and go through a bunch of I have a lot of bookmark folders, and I deeply regret doing it that way. I've also found a lot of shopping that I didn't do.
Jane, I am sure that we have a similar situation of I just have this large bookmark folder that's just labeled research, and it's just a shitload of fucking bookmarks inside of it.
Yeah. It's very hard to like figure out how to organize this kind of stuff in advance when we don't know like what are the categories it'll lead to. I've been thinking about starting a Obsidian, because that's like, it makes things like easier to move around and reconnect.
I definitely tried Obsidian. It might have even been because of you. I don't remember.
Oh, cool.
I tried Obsidian, and it's like for whatever reason, every tool like that I've even tried, I never wind up being able to stick with them. Bright Spirit once asked me if there was like anywhere that we had, explanations of these different ideas from Jane's theory, and I told him, I'm like, I'm not sure how to tell you nicely that because of the way people here are disabled, they're inherently disabled in doing that.
Yeah, well, see, I'm fixing it. That is my mission, is to get it up to the point where it's legible. So I have like I have some of the oh my god, I can't even think of it. Not terminology. There's another name you'd use for that. Oh my god. There's a section that I have for terminology, but it's called something else. Anyways, but there will be one with the paper. It's going to include all that, so there'll be like a glossary of terms.
Cool. That is very cool. I have done work with organizing info. If that's ever something it'd like help to body double with, I'm happy to. It'll be fun to like geek out for me. Yeah, like this.
I'll show you some of the tools too, because a couple people that are like researchers have been just giving me little pro tips. So there's a couple
Cool.
of tools that I'm going to be playing with. I hope to do it tomorrow, so I'll see if any of them are any good. I can show you them too and see if you want to figure out how to use them
Ooh.
too.
That would be very cool, and like I can also reality test that based on what I've heard people using. Like I know some things can be like overkill. But yeah, there are a lot of really cool tools out there. Which like I've used pretty simple stuff so far, and I like am wanting to try more complex stuff, but also like just seeing what's out there and what kind of situations it gets used in. And I may be able to like share how like what you're using fits with like other stuff I've
Yeah. It
heard
should
of.
it should overlap neatly, which is also we can talk about monotropism today. I brought notes.
Yay. Yeah, and Shadow, what you said about like the not sticking with tools like that. I actually read a blog by this coach who like helps people work with tools like that. Like build your second brain, if you will. He was saying that people like try to develop the perfect system and then a couple weeks later realize they need something different. And yeah, like I've run into that with many tools as well.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why I haven't stuck with anything.
Yep.
But I do feel like I'd find it helpful to have something for mind mapping, just
Yes.
like because of how, yeah.
Oh, you guys want to hear the pitch I did yesterday? It's related.
Yeah.
So I worked on the
Sure.
whole thingy.
Mhm.
Okay. Let me go here. So where the hell did I put okay, first of all, let me try to find it. I think I have it. Okay. So I said, and then I threw in some jokes too, so I may not be able to recall them. Okay. So this is about the Imaginaria thing, right? The Isle of Imaginaria. That's the thing I want to make, and I think it would help a lot. So I had to go up and I showed them. So I used this Lovable thing, the lovable.dev. I kind of got a slow start because I started with a team and then we kind of just splintered off because our stuff was different that we wanted to do too much. And I just, yeah. So I kind of lost time, but also the person that I was working with actually does like coding. So he at least gave me an idea of like things that would work and wouldn't work and help me with one part of it. But anyways, so what I did was I made a little island and then there's a little house and you click on the little house and it zooms in into the house. And then the house has different stations and you click on the station and it zooms in. And there's a tracker on the bottom that says how many levels deep you've gone. And it also has a time with and a time since that you can hover over and see. So you can see like if you're in it, it shows how long you've been with it. And I would like to have a meta tracker of that, like how long you spent with these different areas. And then time since is just like drifting over it to see how long it's been since you went there. And I want it to be like those infinite zoom artwork where each time you go to a new location, it can be its own world and it'll be dedicated to that topic. Eventually, this can have AR elements to it, VR with your AI advancing too. It would be able to like populate these rooms with things that are real practical tools. Like this could house all of your ways that you interact digitally to learn and also to put your content out. So this could act like instead of a resume, you take people to your like Library of Alexandria museum of yourself. And so that's the idea. And I think it would work. So, okay, so I showed them the basic thing of like this thing that let you click through things. So you get the idea. And it also is the idea of like, so I wasn't going to explain all this, but like this is like Johnson emphasizes the idea of like we think in containers. Like I'm in a room that's in a house that's on a block, that's in a city, that's in a state, that's in a country, that's on a planet. So when you're contained in and in, it's a different like logic for your brain to digest, and I think that's factivic logic. So it already cues you to go into that mode. Anywho, so all right, let me read my presentation that I did really quickly. Okay, so I said, okay, almost everything in modern society is built around the same basic model of progress. You set a goal, you make a plan, you move forward, and you measure success by how close you are to the goal. This structure shows up everywhere in productivity tools, school systems, jobs, healthcare, and even personal growth models. It assumes that the right way to work is to move in a straight line, that if you stop, pause, or return to something, you have failed. That real progress must always look like forward motion. For people who are motivated by direction and deadlines, that structure works. But for people like me, and especially autistic people, or anyone who builds systems by adding details over time and isn't motivated by milestones, that structure doesn't fit how we actually think. Because we're not organized around arrival. We're organized around returning to structure and the meaning that builds gradually through time. When I return to a place I've already worked, I'm not starting over. I'm continuing. I understand more and I can do more. That's not being stuck. That's the difference between building a sandcastle and running a race. And we're trying to do both of them on the same beach, and everyone is running over my sandcastle. One is about shaping and adding detail in the same place. The other is about moving forward as fast as you can. And we've put all of the prizes in society at that finish line for you to be able to buy the materials to build the sandcastles. But so most systems cannot see this problem. If you revisit the same place again and again, it looks like failure. If your progress isn't visible or directional, it doesn't count. Even if you're deeply engaged, the system reads it as a lack of momentum. That misunderstanding breaks motivation. It creates shame. It pushes people like me out of our own process. So I am building something different. It's a small working prototype. You start on a map, you click into a home. Inside the home are focused workspaces, rooms you can return to. Each room tracks two things: the time with, how much time you spent working in that space, and the time since, how long it's been since you last visited. These aren't timers or deadlines. They're feedback signals that help you see which spaces you're in relationship with based on actual contact. Each room also holds the tools you need: links to websites, files or research, notes or reminders for your next sessions or text time there, embedded AI support right in the room for focus writing or idea development. So when you return, the space is already ready for you. You're not rebuilding context, you're continuing inside a structure that remembers your work. As AI improves, this gets stronger. The system can help you organize, reflect, and develop ideas without reloading your brain every time. You don't have to hold everything in working memory because the space does it for you. But the most important part is this: over time, you don't just build inside the rooms, you build the rooms themselves. One room might develop into a writing studio. Another might become a research tracker. Another might stay minimal just to help you to begin again. The structure of each room changes based on how you use it. That's meta building. You're not adapting to the system. You're shaping the environment to match how your brain actually builds. For people like me, that's not a feature. It's not a preference. It's the only kind of system that makes real work possible.
That was so good. I'm gonna go to the recording and copy that later.
Yay.
And I really feel like that explanation is like very accessible. Because yeah, like when I try to explain to people what we do here, like, I'm like, I could go on for 9 minutes and still not like share anything coherent. But I feel like that is pretty good for the like initial what, how is this different from what people are already doing?
Yep.
Before you get into like the mechanisms for it. And I also feel like this is more validated, like even though it's been a small sample size, it's like you've used it, people in the Imaginarium have used it, versus the stuff about like society and psychopaths and all that. Like that has not been vetted nearly to the same degree because like as far as I know, you haven't been talking with like people living with those conditions about what their experience is really like, and vetting that for months.
I'll mention when I'm talking about that specifically, I mean like Okay, I mean specifically like Trump. So I have read multiple
Mhm.
books from forensic psychologists, psychiatrists, mental health professionals. I've been watching
Mhm.
all of these presentations the entire time that this man has been in office, and it's just because
Mhm.
he's a prime example of what I am talking about, that I think does have
Mhm.
a direct contrast to the factivic. Like, I think that is an extreme motivic,
Right.
and the reason I'm working on it is because we're vulnerable to these specific people that we may need to come up with new names for. So if you meet somebody that is like Trump, I am scared for you.
Mhm.
I am
Right.
genuinely, yeah. So that's more
And
my
I
point.
feel
And if they feel they are like
right.
Trump, again, I think they may be. I don't know how to take that. Like that would be strange. So I'm speaking on that, and if people want to use a more general frame for like, I don't use the term narcissist. I think that's too
Okay.
wishy-washy. I will use
Mhm.
psychopath because that is the term that people will use to describe the malignant leaders and unfit leadership that I'm concerned with. So that's why I'm using.
Okay.
I'm happy to use a different term, but if that was unclear for people, it's a little frustrating because it's not something that I bring up because I think it's tangential. It is important, and it explains a lot of systemic issues, but um, it's not necessary for me to use the terms that people have already identified, except
Yeah.
that there are people who would identify Trump or Elon Musk potentially with those terms, and who have degrees, who I've even spoken to personally.
Right. So I think the fact that they use those terms um causes a lot of problems because it gets conflated with other presentations of what the medical model calls antisocial personality disorder,
Mm-hmm.
where, like, I watched a YouTube video by someone who was diagnosed as a sociopath who got a PhD, was talking about her experience. Like, she's just trying to get through the day. She doesn't want
Yeah.
money and power more than,
Is she
her
blonde?
little slice. Yes.
I watched that too. Yeah. I'm familiar with that. And so this, first of all, the sociopath diagnosis, as far as I understand it, is more functional socially than the psychopath one. But some people, so it depends on what school you're in. So my mom would still use the distinction between psychopath and sociopath, right? But she was trained in the 70s and 80s, or 60s even. She's a long time ago, right? So she wasn't active for a while. And then there's a lot of people that would have just stopped using that entirely and just use antisocial personality disorder. So I am familiar with that. And if people are advocating for people in a community, I think that's a trickier one to do. And sometimes people have decided to include that in the neurodiversity movement, which I'm not sure if that makes sense yet, because we don't know how that would be a developmental disorder per se. It doesn't map entirely on top of, say, like a learning disability the way that something like autism does. Like autism, if you're autistic, if you're ADHD, you have a learning disability. You may be a twice exceptional profile and be able to compensate, and nobody will really
Mhm.
call you on it, but you do have challenges in learning environments that typical people are in. I don't know if they have a learning disability. So they sometimes they're like, well, we're all in a movement, like it's just a social movement. I don't know if I agree with that framing, and that can be seen as antagonistic to their desire to be in a social justice sort of landscape. But I don't know if that approach is how do I put this?
I think I get what you're saying.
Yeah, it gets very inner ring. There's a lot that I'm really, really concerned about with that
Hmm.
behavior. It's ran by a lot of kids, which I don't like. So there's a lot of
Huh.
teenagers in early 20s that run around calling each other ism names,
Mhm.
and then that gets into other
Mm.
dynamics that are really weird. So I'm just sensitive to all that, and I know that
Right.
there's um, there's something there's something I think deeply inappropriate going on with the language that's manipulative, and that's concerning. Where like, if people really want to know my history, I probably know more about like neurodiversity than they do, because I've been around it my entire life, like since I was 6.
So I hear all that, and basically, my whole point was you said that you're specifically talking about people like Trump.
Yep.
I think the term people like Trump would be something that a lot more people would agree with than like the way that some people in some of the social sciences have been using the word psychopath in certain contexts.
Yeah.
I disagree with that based on my worldview. I don't know, learning disability, why I would be inclined to see it as a learning disability based on what I've heard so far, but we're not going to figure that out today. We're not going to figure it out in the Imaginarium, and we are figuring out the stuff in your pitch in the Imaginarium, which is why my whole point was like, that is perfect for like intro to what Jane's doing without getting caught in the weeds of the right term for people like Trump.
Well, and this is what's tricky. So this is important. The reason I have this theory and the reason why I'm advocating for developing it further is because there's something missing in the world, and that is generating the problem you're coming up to me with currently. So, like, that's the level of meta that I'm talking about with this. That the way that I am being interpreted is also a reflection of doing as arriving overfit. And we are mirroring people with high doing as arriving overfit. And I think that includes people that you could say are like Trump or are like this category if you're speaking to a forensic psychologist who applies that term in this circumstance. But for me to say all that to somebody means they actually have to like stay with me long enough instead of reverting to doing as arriving, which has been modeled to them. And that's surreal for people to try to do on the spot. It sounds like I'm challenging them. It sounds like I'm calling them stupid. It sounds like a lot of things if you're already in a doing as arriving lens. So I do think it's important for me to clarify and to say that I'm not like off topic, but I understand why this isn't the best introduction to what I'm saying, but that it actually is all related. But I understand what you're trying to do with your feedback is say like do more of this. I totally understand that. And I think that if you can understand why I'm polishing this for a second, it's because I would not, let me think about this. I don't subscribe to the model people are using, and I know that I don't. I'm not saying that their model isn't well intentioned, but they're questioning if my model is well intentioned. And that's where I get frustrated. When someone's like, what's your real motive? I'm like, I think this is correct. Why do you think it's correct? Because my brain is telling me it's correct. Would you like to know about how my brain works? No, they would not. And because now we're in a whose brain is better competition, and that wasn't the point either. So it's really, really interesting. But it's like, do you see what I'm saying? Like, it's just a meta problem. But I do think it's hard for people to get purchase on that. So it's probably better to just like avoid it on the internet where it's like people are ready to, like their quick draw.
Yeah. Because like, going back to 20-year-olds and what they're saying, and the 30-year-olds who are learning from them, because there aren't many 35-year-olds talking about this.
No.
So like I've heard, there was a time when autistic people were vilified. And then now more recently I've heard like for example, someone in this a group chat where we talk about community building. I'll just say that because I don't want to throw anyone under the bus. Said that she's been having issues. Well, okay, she eventually got to the real point, which is that there were issues with stalking in the group. But what she said before I asked more questions was, we have a lot of autistic people, and there's this estimate, this percent of autistic people are also borderline. And I looked that up, and that was like the highest estimate there is.
Yeah.
And she was like, so what do? And I'm like, okay.
So was she trying to say that the people there were likely to be borderline? Was that the conclusion?
I was very confused, which is why I asked like, what led to this? What behavior is the issue?
Yeah.
Because we could draw lines anywhere arbitrarily based on labels. But that would just be doing what used to be done to autistic people.
Yeah.
which is why, like, and there can be people who are just autistic and nothing else who are hurting people for other reasons of just how they've been, culturally conditioned. I was a leader at like 24 in
Mhm.
tech.
Mhm.
That's perceived as a good thing.
Mhm.
Like that's my comorbidity, which
Yep.
could make me more dangerous than someone who happens to have a borderline label and wasn't able to get through college because they were stigmatized.
It's also
Um,
it's a very different it's a very different lineage in psychology. Like
mhm,
they're not very related. Like autism, the closest relative we had in terms of like not our actual presentation, but the lineage of psychology, we came out of schizophrenia. So
mhm,
that's who was studying us. It wasn't people finding personality disorders, even though they're schizotypal. But that's where it gets a little wishy-washy. If anything, the researchers in that field that would have been paying attention to something like autism would have been schizotypal because we were lumped in with schizophrenia. So it doesn't, I don't know, like that. It's kind of frustrating because it's like I personally don't like um, personality disorder science very much. I think it's probably going to get redone, and that's why I think it's kind of it's jumping the gun to say, well, neurodivergent just means neurodivergent. I'm like, well, what the fuck does it even mean then? Because I'm quite sure mine is that my brain, like, genetically developed differently, and it maybe we don't know why. That's a really good question. I don't think I should be eliminated, or anybody with a difference in brain development should be eliminated, but I don't know what all personality disorders are being caused by. That's a lot more speculative and difficult to map. So the research isn't even as strong as it is for autism in terms of like the like neuroanatomical uh, causes, or well, like, why is it there structurally? It's not as clear, and even autism could be a lot clearer than it is, right? So it's yeah, I don't know, like I that's where I kind of am like, well, why, what's that assumes that you accept both of these sciences as equally robust, which I don't accept behavioral science as robust as developmental science, or neurodevelopmental science, I should say.
yeah, I hear all that. Um, so I would love to hear about the BAT versus monotropism.
Yep.
Could also use a quick bathroom break.
Use a break. Yeah, take a break. Let's transition because that's a sudden topic jump too, and let me just check my notes. Yeah, just tying that off for my sake. Like the one thing about like the whole personality disorder thing, I'm very wary of it because a lot of women got diagnosed with personality disorders when they should have been supported for their learning disabilities. I don't like that. And I would assume that that trajectory is continuing onward. And I'm highly aware that I'm a girl and concerned about how the internet has set women up to be attacked. So it gives me a little bit of a yeah. And also, yeah, I mean, it's interesting because it's a lot of diagnosing from afar, which is not great. What else did I want to say to finish that up? Let me think. There's another thought. Diagnosing from afar. Categories are a little eh. The approach to helping it totally different than you would do with somebody with a disability. It's not acknowledged as a disability in the Americans with Disabilities Act. It is categorically treated differently in the law. There's just a lot that's different whether it should be or not. And the other thing is that some of these people with personality disorders, you can, if you have a therapist that is honest with you, or psychiatrist, just be like, do you treat these kind of people? Why not? And they're like, because they're too hard. They're too challenging. They're treatment resistant. They have a lot. They take a lot of specialist care, and they won't even say like, and they'll say it in a way more compassionate way than what I just did. But like that's so tricky. And then because I'm autistic and that makes me rather blunt, I don't want to hurt people's sense of safety, but they've built an identity around the current landscape of ideas, and I'm not sure if those ideas are categorized sensibly, and I don't think you need that to have an identity either. It's just people are guarding themselves against being excluded from something. I'm like, I don't know. If you have a need that is difficult to get met, I probably can't translate it into my neurodevelopmental disability if it's drastically different. And expecting me to be able to is not, it doesn't make sense. And yeah. Okay. All right. That was my closing thoughts on that. Okay. So let's go into this part. So here's my blurb. Okay. So monotropism is descriptive, is the main thing I would say. Like, they're describing something that I am also doing some description of, but I am using like factivic orientation, or BAT, building arriving theory, as causal. So my theories about the causal mechanism, monotropism is describing behavior without necessarily a causal mechanism. So some people will add that. But if you go like to the website, and it was a theory developed by autistic people, it's like a person who developed it. I'm trying to remember if it was a guy or a girl, but I know that they have a son who continued the work. So there's like 2 generations of autistic people that have been developing that, which is pretty cool. I like that. So monotropism describes what happens. So monotropism is an individual's tendency to focus their attention on a small or singular number of interests at any time. Interests that are active at any given time tend to consume most of the available attention. This is sometimes described as having a spotlight, and the rest of the world has a floodlight. So that's their anchoring metaphor, which kind of makes sense if you think about my ideas around grid cells and place cells and this compression issue. It would act a little bit like that. Like, the person that has the compression is able to process the world and act like there's a floodlight in the room. The person who doesn't have that level of compression, it took me a while to get to the point of compression. I couldn't tell if there was like a blindness element to it. At first I saw it as a blindness. Now I see it as like the context has to be fleshed out point by point by point, and then it does stay. Like, you don't lose the context you've built, but you have to build it point by point by point by point. Which is why it makes sense for autistic people to learn abstract reasoning skills in any way we can get them to, because they're going to fill out their map better if they have abstract rules of the universe to fill out. That's going to help them to orient. But it's still going to be a really different process, and yeah, it changes. Well, and my argument is that in order to do that, this is where you get the split of orientation. That in order to do that, you're using factivic orientation to make that possible, when motivic orientation cannot help you get around the room with everyone else who has motivic orientation, which feels like a floodlight. Okay, so factivic explains why this happens. So I've identified like an underlying cognitive structure potentially, and that autistic people and others are operating in factivic mode in a world designed for motivic interaction. So the refinements that my framework provides, they've got this numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 6 of them. Okay. The first one is that beyond attention to cognitive mode. Monotropism focuses on attention allocation. But my framework explains that this is a fundamental difference in information processing mode. So there's factivic active, which is high sensory discrimination, deep pattern analysis, and requires filtering. And there's motivic activation, or motivic active, that mode, which is lower discrimination, a broader bandwidth, and social coordination. And that's what we are lacking in. But it's beyond social skills, because this is like and it could come from multiple agents. Like if motivic active is disrupted because you can't understand spatial relationships, that could be one way this happens. If it's interrupted due to some sort of other cognitive architecture that interrupts like neurotransmitters, that could also do it. I don't know. So this could explain subtypes or even crossover. I'm not sure. Monotropism notes, in order to hear what others are saying, I often need to look away from them. My listening to what is being said is interfered with my attending to their facial expressions. So my framework explains this because factivic processing can't handle multi-channel, low precision social coordination that the motivic interaction requires. So in order to do multi-channel processing, it has to be low precision. It has to flatten. I cannot do that is the problem. So the social impairment gets reframed then as monotropism describes all of these qualitative impairments in social interaction concern the absence of the usual acquired behavior of aligning or coordinating one's emotions and actions with those of other people. That's what they would say, okay? And do say on their website. So my insight is that this isn't about attention capacity. It's about cognitive architectural incompatibility, or like the cognitive architecture is not compatible. So autistic people's spatial hierarchical navigation system, grid cells and place cells, like that, it's not optimized for precise stable mapping. Or sorry, let me say, I said that wrong. It is so it's not optimized for dynamic social hierarchy negotiation. So that's what we can't do. But we can do precise stable mapping, which is like the local featural thing. And then, so yeah. Okay, that's the least well-defined part of this. Let me keep going. So from deficit to different architecture, monotropism is still somewhat deficit focused, explaining autism as having narrower attention tunnels. My framework shows autism as a different but equally valid cognitive system, optimized for factivic processing in a motivic world. So I don't think we have a narrow attention tunnel. I think we have an inability to use the system that creates a spatial flexibility, because it requires all of these things to happen first before you get the flexibility that is knocked out in autism, for a bunch of reasons. Okay, let me try. This isn't the best summary it could have been, but it's okay. Let's see here. Let me go through a couple more. So they said the intense interest mechanism. Monotropism explains monotropic minds concentrate processing resources on relatively few things at a time, relatively intensely. I also strongly disagree with this. So my framework says why this happens, and then I'll explain my refinement. So the summary I was able to make just says factivic processing requires intense salience discrimination. The special interests are the natural result of factivic architecture engaged with complex information systems. Am I cut out yet? Did it cut me out again?
You cut out, like you said, factivic requires, and then you cut out.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so so factivic processing requires intense salience detection and discrimination. The special interests are the natural result of factivic architecture engaged with complex information systems. So the way that I put it, it's not that we don't have enough resources. It's that if you navigate with points placed in like context that can also be in your memories and can also be like very meaning determined, like if how is this meaningful, why is this meaningful, you're trying to get precision of meaning. It actually takes a lot of attention on other information that you've stored to then situate it. Okay, so yeah, and then that makes a rigidity too, because you're like, well, I know that this is how this acts, and even if people are saying, well, we're gonna kick this watermelon like it's a football, you're like, but it's still a watermelon, you guys. We shouldn't kick it. So we're the guys that get upset when someone wants to pretend it's a football when it's not. Okay. Then 5, explaining the social versus non-social pattern. Monotropism doesn't explain why autism affects social situations more than solitary activities. My framework does. Factivic plus factivic agents can work, like collaborating with LLMs would be different. Factivic plus motivic agents, systems are incompatible. Solo factivic, optimal for deep work. So we can work with other people who think factivically, but we can't work very well with people that are thinking and working motivically. And yeah, so let's see. The missing causal mechanism, monotropism states minds are made up of active interests shaped by their histories of paying attention, but it doesn't explain the neurobiological basis. Your framework provides the missing link. The grid place cell navigation system that processes 3D space also processes social hierarchies, and autistic people have a version optimized for precise, stable mapping rather than dynamic social navigation. So that's basically it. I don't love this summary in some ways, but it gives you essentially the problem is that they think that they think that like I need to look at their website now. But okay, actually, let me start there. So any questions on that, even though the summary is not my favorite yet?
Yeah, I like it. And so when you said that factivic processing can't handle multi-channel, low precision social interaction that motivic requires. So I have found that for me, like I can do, and I do eye contact better when I'm not thinking like as deeply about a thing. Like maybe the object is the person. And okay, this kind of gets back to what I was talking about before about like the different aspects of research. So I enjoyed like when I would have a research question and I would be doing interviews about it. Like basically my days would be doing interviews with people, synthesizing the data, and like checking in with my team members and like getting feedback and stuff. Because I also ended up like doing customer support at that job, but that was not that relevant to the main point. So I like feel like then, you know, maybe the other person can be my object to focus on. And like I can be thinking about the relationship to the object of the product, but not like also that like the product in the example that I thought of was pretty simple. And that's often how research is done as well. Like it's on like a for user experience research, it's like on a piece of a thing at a time, with being somewhat flexible. Like if something reveals problems with something upstream of that, we can go there. But if not, like then we can stay more fleshing out details, because like if we go more abstract then we can't talk details, and I also find it harder to like process other people's affect and, you know, their body language and tone and all that when I end up like thinking really abstract. Yeah, like I find it hard to hold something really abstract in my mind while talking with someone in like a dialogue and really understanding their experience rather than like giving a one-way presentation or writing a blog. And I don't know if that ability can be developed, and if so, how. But yeah, like I do wonder like when I'm motivic, how different I am from other people.
Typical people, yeah.
Versus like what, yeah.
So I would say this is my question of like okay, so if you can try to be okay, let me start this over. If you try to do motivic tasks, but you're actually like factivically engaged, like that's how you're getting your sense of continuing to want to do something. Let's just put it that simply, right? Then you're gonna have a problem because you cannot process everything in time to keep up with the motivic people. And that could be burnout. And that can be us trying to hyper focus for hours to catch up with everybody else, and we've missed all of the things that we were supposed to be doing, supposedly. So
Right.
there's just like a difference metabolically here that doesn't really feel fair, where you're having to do a bunch of extra work to make it appear to have the same output as them. But I'm suggesting that, like, if we could sit down a bunch of people that are like typically developed and from very like motivic oriented spaces, they would describe their thinking really, really, really differently. They don't tend to do that, because if they describe their thinking too much, they might lose their competitive edge and somebody will copy it. That's another problem you have. They don't really like to share insights about their brains, because that's part of their competitive strategy, is to be different than other people in some way that nobody else knows. So there's a lot there that's kind of funky. But if you're trying to figure out like how much you do of either one, like, this is new enough that I don't really know how it gates in people or how this would work. My thinking is like, I can't really practice motivic in my case, because it seems like that's just like not available. And that's where my guess is that like the problem for me is very, very directly in my grid cells or place cells. Something's happening there. And so I never could learn to use information that way. And that doesn't mean that other people don't find ways to learn to use information that way. I think that I couldn't, and that explains why I have the behaviors I do around language. That is my compensation.
That makes sense. And in terms of like how much am I doing to compensate, I do feel that varied based on the task. Now, would I burn out regardless of the task? I honestly don't know. I'm not convinced enough to like give up. So I'll give the comparison between that user experience work versus when I was a software engineer. So when I was a software engineer, it was supposedly building, but it was measured based on an output, which would obscure a lot. We would present that the thing looks like it works on the front, but every edge case would not be tested. In theory, it should be, but then you're slow. So there would be like all of these issues there. The boss is supposed to communicate the details of what we need to do, but that would make them slow. So there's like all this issue. Versus if I'm the person doing user interviews, I'm not rewarded if I communicate in a way that rushes and overwhelms them. I'm rewarded for having a conversation that works for both people. Now, there are times I've questioned, like, do things about my autistic communication overwhelm people? Like, could I reach like limits there, especially as I try to be better at it? But I do feel that like there's a double empathy problem between any two people. And so like people are somewhat braced for that, especially like when we're talking about their experience of a product. We're not talking about my lived reality at all. Like, unless they describe some experience which I really don't understand, but they're not at that level of awareness right now. And I could probably help them dissect how their motivic brain works better than they could at this point.
Yeah, well, you have examples galore. That's another thing. There's so much more of it.
Yeah, and when I do that kind of job, I get more and more examples. And my job can be, like, half my time can be just having those conversations. The other half can be synthesizing, which, depending on the type of synthesis and the data, may not be that hard, because there are a lot of patterns in how people talk. There'd be patterns in the issue they describe. Where it got to be challenging was when I would see issues up. But if I can get better at vetting what kind of companies have their shit together enough where I'm not going to be discovering like massive gaping holes. Now,
Yes.
I don't know, the direction that tech is going, that may not exist.
Mm-hmm.
But even if I do independent research, like scoping out what, you know, is something that I can research and probably come up with something within 2 months as opposed to 2 years. Just because like I do work better when I can have like checkpoints.
Mm-hmm.
Of like I learned this.
Mm-hmm.
Now moving on, how can I move forward from that? They don't need to be like on a timeline. That is not good for me. But in general, like processing more than a couple weeks worth of learning at a time can get overwhelming for me. And I know like that might get better over time. It feels like it has been getting better.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still like there's the emotional impact of that, of like stuff coming up. And you know, my kind of window of like a good day doesn't feel as good anymore because my brain isn't as hyper indexed on the day anymore.
Yeah.
It's still like in this reality of America and what's been happening this whole year.
Yep.
And I'm just like more aware of that because of how much time I've spent in abstract land.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like, so
Couple things I want to add. That okay? Is if this is a good place? You want to finish?
You're good. You can go.
Okay, so it's a couple things I think I could tie in here that might be helpful, especially with what you just said. So, if the world is using this motivic skill set, it makes people more predictable in a group. That is one of the advantages. So it's possible that you've learned ways to learn that work for you, so that you can be able to predict them based on the fact that they're motivic, but there's still a lot of like cultural bleeding that's happening right now where people are suddenly acting like other groups. Like I remember the day where I'm like, why are boomers acting like 16-year-old angsty internet bros? Like what is happening? But that's people are influencing each other to adopt rules in a really scattershot way, but it's getting lodged in. So that's weird. But also if you have to predict them and you notice that they're changing a lot, it makes sense to zoom out to the abstract. And I do think there's an element of manipulation going on here where I think the general population is maybe seeing exposure to all these other ways of being and they're just kind of mirroring it. But if you don't mirror it, you kind of are just like, are people getting crazier? And the answer, I believe, is kind of yes. But we're not really like identifying the phenomenon properly yet to give people self-insight. So a lot of people are attacking each other while doing the problem behavior. They've already adopted that. So if you find yourself having to be more stressed out, you're trying to regain the level of predictability you had from motivic people prior.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're unstable now. Like that's what I would argue. They may see me as super confusing because I'm not in a shared reality with them either. Like them.
Yep.
But that doesn't mean that my reality is wrong. I know why I'm rejecting their shared reality. They don't know why they're rejecting mine.
Right. I do really feel that about the cultural bleeding and people picking things up from different spheres. And being hard to predict to the point where a lot of the strategies that I used to get good at the noticing like what's important to people, what are patterns in their behavior. Like when people get to, like when startup founders get to Lulu in a certain way, how long does that tend to last?
Right.
When should I be talking to them? When should I be going, that's cool, nice to meet ya, I'm busy. And then last year, like, things just got so different from before, and like the pace of change in tech, it's to a point where I'm like, do I need to leave tech? And a lot
Right.
of people are thinking that, regardless of their neurotype.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, where is it different? And I do know that I'm noticing tech has had elements of building,
Yep. It
which I
has to.
don't know if they exist in other,
Yeah.
in other fields like
Mhm.
academic research, as
Right.
tech does have like customer, do research on like real people and their decisions to buy stuff, free adults and their decisions to buy stuff, as opposed to autistic kids. Like I
Yeah.
saw there was a research study I didn't look at that a family member sent to me, which I forget if it said like treating autism or
Oh boy.
cure or something. And
Yeah.
just like thinking, okay, what may have actually helped here? Maybe it may have been someone checking in on them every day and asking how they're doing.
Yeah.
Like, because it's like impossible to get that kind of part-time caretaker if you're not in a study.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly.
Maybe it's not the injection they gave them or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, if you've obsessively tried to make this person change their behavior, perhaps they change their behavior. I'm sorry. That's very frustrating. Masking doesn't exist. Yes? No? Oh wait, it does exist? Oh wait. Oh, all right. That's the whole problem. I think we had a spam person. Let me just ban them. Okay. Yeah. What did I want to say? Well, okay. So, I'm gonna noodle around with my app a little bit more because I still have access to the Lovable, I think. So I'm gonna try to fix it and make it act like it's supposed to look. Kind of. It's too complex to do without some amount of help, I think. But
Take a look.
Yeah. But I want to say, so I went to that event and it was like really cool because the whole point of it was like it was in Richmond, and it was like the most actually diverse hackathon that's probably ever existed. So
wow.
Yeah. So like there was
really diverse or something?
Was that?
Is Richmond really diverse or something?
Richmond has a lot of black and brown people there, like just overall, and it has more people that like would be excluded from the upper echelons of this like tech elite shit. So it was also bringing it to like people in the community. Like Kayla is someone who graduated from Dominican college while she was living in her car, and she's like done incredible things with her life. She's a rapper, and she does like all this stuff around AI now, and is just like she's a businesswoman at heart too, in a way that's like really incredible. So it was a very nice event. And it was sponsored by like this co-working space that was really beautiful. And there was like a street festival with like live music outside, which was kind of fun. So like there's like 2 white guys there.
Wow.
And
out of like how many people total?
Oh, I don't know, 50?
A good size.
Maybe more. Yeah, at least 50. And not everybody was participating. Some people just came to watch. We had like the 2 people that won, the group that won, they're like teenage girls. Like Latina teenage girls. And they just had a really great idea for like studying and how to study better. So it was very, very nice. So that was cool. And the whole idea is that like these you might like them actually. Like it was nothing like what you were describing.
Yeah, wow. Okay, you sound like you have like a network of actually cool people.
Yeah, I think you should meet them. I think like I need to introduce you to Kayla, and she's doing like some sort of like an online platform. She's really cool. I really like her. I've known her for a long time now too. Like I've known her for like almost 10 years or something. And I compliment battle rapped her. I have a compliment battle with her.
Cool.
It was really fun. So she's good people, and like anyone around her is good people. Like I ran into like 4 people I know, one that I did a little bit of the hackathon with, but 3 people that I just have met through my travels. I was like, oh my god, it's you! And just like, yeah, so she's attracting people that are good people. And then she had
That
like,
was really awesome.
yeah, like good judges and stuff that were, industry level, blah blah blah. Somebody who consulted with Mark Cuban, and somebody from the music industry that's like been in the room troubleshooting with Beyonce. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm like, I'm a Muppet. How's it going? But yeah, it was really cool. It was. I think you would like her. I think you like her stuff. I'm gonna connect you in case there's something there. That isn't a soul sucking nightmare.
Yeah.
I was like, maybe that was too harsh, but maybe it wasn't.
I mean, a lot of the stuff is, and the vetting it's been bigger of a nightmare because like challenge with the Bay Area networks that I'm the most supportive people led me to rethink my whole idea of what it means to be American. But also a lot of them keep around people who like sometimes don't have great ideas about like consent and like I try to not get too close to people who don't have like some kind of bar there, but just like the baseline of like the like not knowing who's gonna be somebody big someday, and like leave the circles and end up alone kind of deal. So like a lot of people end up, instead of doing that, more like vet specific places they want to go, the immediate sphere, is that safe enough for a specific context, and like have people they can ask about that, which that is not something I've had in Chicago. But like now there's so much more, people moving to and from the Bay. And like more spheres mixing in ways where I end up in a group with people like that person I told you about.
Yep.
And it's like I felt like I was past that part of my life, because 2023, 22 to 23, I was like new to exploring the Bay. There was a lot of like subcultures that were just very unfamiliar to me, and I had my first like just the frequency of new things that people told me I needed to watch out for was traumatic. But there were people who told me I needed to watch out. Versus in Chicago, like, what saved me was just not having to be around people as much, because it was easy to make money as a software engineer when I graduated. And like I would find people confusing and I would bail. But like in the Bay, I found people who could be like, okay, maybe you can go over here, but like don't do this because you may be targeted. Or like maybe don't go to this specific place at this specific time.
Yeah.
But then now with like trying to explore outside of tech, and also just feeling like on a crunch financially, like I'm like like what is actually like sometimes when I don't get enough things to explore that feel safe, like vettedly safe by people I know, I start exploring a bit further, which is where like stuff like this happens. Like that person was someone who had gone to an event by this community building group that was in, versus like everyone who was in that group or a speaker there, like they were all like, whether or not like we like agreed on stuff. Like no one caused me problems. And like the people running that org are very good at that. But it was their like open to the public pitch where this person like latched on to me. But then like she was hosting this event that was like really unique, and I was like, well, I don't know where else I'll find something like this, which is why like if I could, you know, find enough like safe things, I wouldn't bother, and especially at that frequency, you know. And also my like bar would be higher because like I had come from the 2 days before had been a very extreme arriving hackathon, and I'd survived. Yay.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like I bet I can survive this too. I did last time. Versus like just if I could have a list of people I can talk to about my interest in neurodivergence without hearing about their neurodivergent kid and their neurodivergent coworker and their experience like just learning they're autistic and being super traumatized, like people who've figured out how to have healthy conversations around it. Like if I could have more experiences where with people where I'm the less experienced person with that and I can learn from them, like you know, even virtually. Like I'm gonna be in SF in December, but like I don't know, you know, when I'm gonna have more trips after, like when, if I still want to move. It has been on my mind with like after this H-1B announcement of like if there are going to be fewer immigrants to the US, like I really want to be somewhere where there's been like a long history and impact from immigration. Where like and also where it's not like really segregated like Chicago. But also like I don't know how much more I can get from like a lot of in-person exploration of happenings if they're not vetted. Like vetted by other people. I am an autistic burnout.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, exactly. Well, so okay, if we think that potentially at least some of what autistic burnout covers is having to walk in the room and use Factivic in this insane time crunch to do something it can't actually do, or else people hurt you, then like part of the problem is other people. Like you need somebody on your side that's going to be like, okay, I know you guys are going to come at this little Muppet here. I think we're Muppets, all of us. And but leave them alone. They are doing a thing. They are supposed to be here. They are doing something helpful. Do not ask them for that, this, that, this, or that. They're not going to do any of that.
Yeah, for real. Because like people keep, you know, telling me how I can develop strategies to like fend for myself. And I try it, and bad things happen, and it burns me out more. And bad things happen where people latch on to me, where like they cause drama in between like multiple communities that I'm in. Like I cannot handle this at this pace. And like yeah, I've tried like reaching out to hosts, like, but they're really limited on like what they can do. Like, I don't know what is a realistic solution here. I think like events that are formatted with more of a specific scope of like, here's what we're gonna do, like where there's less open-endedness. Granted, like there are people looking to network who are always gonna ask for a bunch of other things, but like if the stuff happening is engaging enough in ways that are not purely social, people have less space to do that. Like even the hackathon I went to, there were presentations, and that part, like, I could just take it in without having to be social at the same time.
Yeah.
And like if things are mapped out about like here are your options of things you can do, or like, okay, another positive example. So I went to this EdTech unconference where people submitted topics and then an AI like aggregated common themes from them. And then you could decide, so there were 3 different rounds where you could decide like which topic you wanted to go talk about. And so we could get right into that without like a round of intros, which like sometimes people still wanted to do that, but then it wasn't like more follow-up questions about that unless like people intentionally asked. Like there was someone who said that he was looking for a job and he could use like help with that. But other than that, like we got into the topic and it became more like this. There was like at the end, now like the tiniest things can impact that. Like there were people from the last round who were like in our area networking, so we couldn't like form a circle like physically, and that just kind of like threw that off because then like our group just started like networking, and like I cannot do the rapid fire like get into a conversation with one person and that person's gone and another person's there. Like I just cannot navigate that at that pace. And I don't know how to tell people that. Like I've stopped going to happy hours that aren't topical. And like I try to, you know, like keep my head down and walk around and like until I find like a group of multiple people. Like, you know, I try to like listen to what people are talking about and then like join conversations that I'm interested in. But like that, for that to even be worth it, like it's just not if there's not like a scoped topic, which is why like when I heard you know, like it's a hackathon for everyone and not just people in tech, and like maybe you can do good stuff for the world, like that was all these code words for unstructured to me.
Right.
Or like high ambiguity.
Yeah, it was really organized. It was crazy.
That's really awesome. Also, I heard a news person interviewing her, and like the way that person framed it was like legit triggering for me.
Yeah, no, well, I don't think people have vocabulary for getting off of the. I mean, it still was like, in my opinion, motivic, because I like I was like, they're like, time to do a pitch. I'm like, I'm doing a what, huh? Now what, huh? I've never done a what, and so I had no idea that was part of it. Like I didn't know.
Right.
So I was like, shit, and so I didn't know what I was building towards or anything. And then they're like judges. I'm like, oh, there's judges at a pitch. I guess I knew that.
Oh.
I like from
Did
the
you learn that?
I learned that from a musical that I was in about Y Combinator. Like, I don't know. So I was like, oh yeah, okay. Sure, there's judges. I'm like, I just didn't ask. You know what I mean? Like it might have been somewhere, but you know me in forms, right? I just like filled it in and didn't pay attention to anything. Yeah. Anyways, but it went fine. I just kind of like did that. But that's a very motivic thing, right? It's like build, and now we'll judge your build. I'm like, what? Like, but they were really nice. Yeah. They weren't mean. They weren't like.
Yeah, I'm glad.
Yeah.
Dang. Yeah, like I feel like for that level of ambiguity, it is important to be like grounded factively and like having enough space. Like it may have been a good thing that your group split instead
it was
of
great.
Like, trying to force it.
It would have been a mess. It was so good that it split. I was like, yeah, you guys do something else. Like, yeah, leave me alone. Like,
props to you for making that happen and for like communicating that to them. Because something people do with me when I'm like, I feel like we want different things here, is they're like how? Well, I want this, and I want the thing you just said. And I'm like, I don't think I can really explain how it's different. Well, we can figure that out later.
Right.
Like, we don't even know each other that well.
Yeah.
And just, like, is there anything I can say besides you're making me not like you?
Yeah. Well, because you're sensing that this is why I like that Lakoff thing with the metaphor bridges.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're like, you're nowhere near this concept. You are in the sea. Like, no, you don't know what I want.
Yeah, for real. Which is why, like, something that worked with the. I sent like a message to the Chicago songwriting group after that situation in SF because I was just like I needed some confirmation that they could understand that I'm different if I'm ever gonna go back to it. And so I was just like, yeah, like I shared like I'm in a space where I like am getting triggered more easily after recent events and I may have to just leave. Do not give me suggestions for what to do. Most Midwestern ideas have not worked for me.
Yeah.
So I just like like I went to San Francisco to find stuff that like
you know what I've had to do. I wonder if this will apply for you. So sometimes when people give me advice, like here's this thing that you should try, I kind of just have to say that like I really want to see what happens if I finish the thing I'm already doing. So thank you, but I have to give what I'm already doing a chance. If what I do fails, I will be sure to try whatever the hell you just said to me. Because people seem to not want to interrupt you when you're like in the middle of something. It's like it gives them which is true. Like it is true. That is exactly what I'm doing. But it communicates in a way that people seem to respect better than other things I have tried.
Yeah, thanks for that. That's really good. And that has worked. Like, that is one thing I did feel so much privilege whenever I identify as a founder. So I can be like, I'm trying this thing and I'm gonna try it for a year or two and I'm gonna fail plenty in the meantime.
Yep.
And that's like accepted.
Yep.
Versus I'm trying to be a UX researcher. Oh, but you're not learning this and this and this.
Right.
It's like, but I need to focus on one thing. And yeah, I'm not going to be qualified for every job, but hopefully I'll be able to actually do a job.
Mm-hmm. Which you can. And the nice thing about having you here too is like you do have a career that's like supposed to be what people are getting into, which is so interesting. Like how you know what I mean? Like everyone's like, this is what you should be doing. I'm like, well, it sounds like people will go there and feel like shit about themselves and then assume that they're not like supposed to do anything. Yeah, and broke. Which then you can't do anything when you're broke. That's yeah. Yeah, so that
AI is taking over the jobs building AI now.
Right. I know it is. I'm sure it's recursive. Anyways, but yeah, so like the point of this is that jobs are not supposed to dominate our decision-making process like they are right now. What they were supposed to do, in theory, at first, was to make the lord and ladies happy, which is weird. Like, that's What they can do is help us to connect with other people and have very full lives with a lot of meaning. So we don't like we don't like bullshit jobs. We don't like meaningless jobs. We don't like being told that people are obsolete while selling to people.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like, well, just make an infinite money machine and just sit in front of it for the rest of your life. Jesus.
Right, that's what I thought would happen. I thought the rest of us broke people would be free to sell art and pastries and stuff to each other while the rich people like sell to each other from their money-making machines.
Exactly.
Great.
Why? Right. I was like, what if we terraform an island for you guys, and you just get to be insane there? Like, do whatever you want. Like, if it's, I mean, it's probably going to turn into some sort of a horror film, but go there, and we'll rain money on you every day, and you can just be like skipping around, trying to cheat death. I don't know do what you do, but leave us out of it.
Yeah.
And that's an okay thing to think. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I do feel optimistic. Like one thing, yeah, as I'm thinking about stuff I want to time capsule, it's like, okay, what does tech know about building? Um, and also just regular people building things for regular people before it was like,
Yeah.
what can we possibly market to people without actually building it?
Yep. So if you okay, I have a cheat for that to figure out like what's building. Anything
Mm.
that depends on code or uses code, anything that depends on language or uses language, anything that depends on visual symbols or uses visual symbols is building. Because like even if you wanted to do engineering, you have to visually identify the parts, and those parts have to have a role that they can transfer to other buildings, right? So you can't have, I mean, there's some things where it's like there's only one thing like it and only that can power it. Like sure, there's like a aspect of
Right.
what's the word of exclusivity, but a lot of things are interchangeable. Like you can use this kind
Yeah.
of thing or that kind of thing. So if there's a
Mm.
choice to be made about how it will be assembled, that is building. So language has to do that. If you want to like code switch, you have to do that. If you want to speak to a
Mhm.
technical audience, you have to do that. So it's all for the
Mhm.
purpose of this goes with this for the reason of it becoming something more complex, which code does, math can do. The sciences are fun because they can do it, and the universe like totally agrees with
Mhm.
you, and you get to see something blow up that you wanted to see blow up, and not blow up that you didn't want to see blow up. Yay!
Mhm.
So if you have like a language component, even if it's abstract, like dance is abstract language, even just musical scales are kind of abstract language. We feel sad when we hear a minor chord. That's weird. But we
Mhm.
we are trying to reproduce a perceivable condition in relationship to other perceivable conditions to have an emergent
Mhm.
thing. And that's always building at its simplest. And if people are able to keep that stable, where like the reperceivable condition is not eroding or becoming vulnerable
Mhm.
to falling apart, then you know you have people that are thinking factivically because they have you can't leave it
Mhm.
alone. That's what I was trying to say. Like you have to come back to it. You can't just leave it there. You have to go back and back and back and back. It's not just maintenance either,
Mhm.
because time and space and experiences, you are always different when you come back, and now you're working with a different you and a different thing. So the factivic person doesn't neglect things. The factivic parent doesn't neglect their
Mhm.
kids or project
Mhm.
something onto them for the rest of their lives that they no longer are. Like if you want people that are in building mode, they have to use the logic of building itself as like their drive. That's what they'll want it to become more stable. They'll want to explain it to you. They'll
Mhm.
want to mentor you.
Mhm.
Even if they're not very good at it, they'll still want to.
Hmm.
And that's why I like ballet. Ballet had to be factivic because it's asking the human body to have physics work with it and not against it.
Hmm. Yeah. Um, yeah, I think the neglecting is where a lot of things are not being done effectively because it's like, let's code some more. Oh, we are not having this rapid growth like VCs say we need.
Yeah.
So let's just scrap the whole thing and build another thing. It's like things aren't even around long enough to like come back to them.
Yeah, it sounds like
Um,
Elon Musk's parenting style.
What? Because he's having that many kids?
Yeah, he's like, I'll make another one. Move fast and break children.
That many kids, and also how he's naming his kids is questionable at
Serial
best.
numbers.
Yeah, his kids are literally what sounds like model numbers for spaceships that he should have had his names in SpaceX. Like,
Or I'm
oh.
concerned it's spare parts. I'm really concerned. Anyways,
I
that's
first,
aside.
yeah, go ahead.
That was just a non sequitur I had to do. I was like, that's a good one. You got to say that, Jane, you battle rapper.
Yeah. Yeah. All really good stuff. Shadow, anything you want to talk about? I'm sure like I can think of more.
You don't have to wait on me being able to insert. It's okay.
I just wanted to give you a chance because there was like a natural slowdown.
I'm
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
take a
lots
pause
of
to color.
mm,
Yay.
I
that's
just
good.
had two cats just jumped on my lap at the same time.
That's cute.
Aw, are they fighting or getting along?
They get along fine.
Oh, good.
To Jane, yes, I still have 9 cats.
Yeah, I was about to ask that. Yep. It's
I
amazing.
still have everybody. That wasn't planned, but here we are.
You're a good cat mom, getting them all to get along.
Mostly, yeah. It's like our 10-year-old cat and the mom of these kittens, they don't get along that great. Like, they're not aggressive, but that's the only concern that we had for a bit, was the mom was a jerk. Like, I don't know how else to put it.
Maybe because she was a mom too. Or was
Well,
it even before?
I did. That's the thing, is once I had the knowledge that she was pregnant, because obviously I didn't know right away. Once I found that out, I'm like, oh, that's part of the problem. She's in a new environment, and this is another female cat, and she's pregnant. What the hell?
Yeah.
Since getting fixed, it's no longer problematic.
That's good.
So, all 9 cats are finally fixed in this house. It just took a little bit.
Congratulations, I think. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, it's less stressful, if nothing else.
That's good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I've been thinking a lot about what it means to understand. And yeah, this like people copying things from other people. It makes it really hard to vet like what is safe as well. And I also felt like in 2002 or 2022, when I would like read startup websites, it'd be like more in the founder's voice.
Yeah.
Like, but now I'm seeing a lot of things built on top of buzzwords. Like the whole idea is built on top of buzzwords. And like, I don't know, is the whole idea genuinely built on top of buzzwords? Or are they like us, where they're trying to find words for their thing and the culture doesn't have them, and they're using like these really vague things?
Yeah.
But it's also like, if they've managed to exist as an organization for like years, like, wait, your hackathon pitch, like, I don't know how long you put into that, but like, or like how long you've had the Isle of Imaginaria idea. Like, I'm guessing less than a year, right?
I mean, the idea probably 2-ish, but it's been growing the whole time.
Okay. That makes sense. But like, you were able to put it into this, like, how to explain it to like a generic audience in a way that is like very day-to-day, which is what I used to see more of before, versus now I'm seeing more people talking about how you usually talk about BAT, like analogous to that, but it doesn't even make sense, but about things that are supposed to be a product for regular people to use.
Oh, that wouldn't work.
Like, you should use this social media app because it'll save democracy.
Right. Yeah, I've been to something where I got to hear that before, and it was very weird. That's when I was in that weird musical I
Who was
mentioned.
it?
It
Oh.
was like it was right before the pandemic. So it was like 2019,
Mm.
and yeah, I went to somewhere in the Presidio, and it was like kind of a weird secret society. There's something called Black Sheep that put it together, and then some weird thing that sounded like a secret society that I forgot the name of. And it was like a bunch of rich people saying how they're going to save the world. And I was like, okay. And like at one point, I think I told you this, it made me so uncomfortable. I wanted to like slice a hole in the fabric of time and slip through it and escape. But I was like stuck in this ballroom with everybody at a chair, just be like, ah!
This literally sounds like a more rich Scientology kind of nonsense.
Yeah, it felt like it. That's very, yeah. Yep. I felt like I
I
was in
keep
the
forgetting
wrong
what
room.
Scientology even is. I'm Googling it.
Yeah.
Scientology. How do I say this? I went down a Scientology like rabbit hole at one point, so I know a stupid amount of information.
I'm going through
Like,
how many iterations of this thing I wrote to be able to say it. So hold on. I'm just going to count them.
Wow.
Because I was like, they're not going to understand that. They're not going to understand. Nope, they won't get that. Nope, can't. Nope.
Oh, for your pitch, you mean?
Yep. Because I was like, I can't talk about my theory. That won't work. I'm like, they're all like going to be probably doing as arriving anyway. So I'm like, shit. Okay.
Yeah. That's really impressive that you were able to like get down to that. It's like, yeah, I've tried like multiple times. You know, every time before an SF trip, like, how do I explain my life situation and what do I need? Like, there was this one time where our whole HCAT was like, how do I describe my interest for like if I get to drop my LinkedIn in the chat at this one event, how can I like not attract a bunch of like really extractive behavior from people? And like, yeah. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's like really impressive that you were like able to do that. Because sometimes I just end up with like more and more and more paragraphs.
Yeah, that was happening too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was using my GPT that knows all my model to figure out a timing for this too. So they're running me through cycles of like no, yes, no, yes, no. It could have been better if I could sit down with it longer, but it was like, okay, that's going to be the best. Okay, so how many things did we fix? 12. Hold on. That was bad too. 13. 14. Is that another 15?
Yeah.
16.
Mm-hmm.
17.
Oh, you're looking at how many rounds you did?
Uh-huh. Of like trying to fix this thing to make it comprehensible. 18,
Wow.
19. I spent the last like 20 minutes just going through this as quickly as possible, and then I kept working on it while in my seat to try to fix it. Probably I went through over 25 iterations at least, maybe 30. Actually, maybe 30, just to try to translate it and looking for like that paragraph, yes, that, no, yes, no. Yeah, maybe 30 or 40 actually, the more that I've looked at this. Yeah, so I was doing this for like probably 30 minutes. Just, I wrote out the basics and then I kept cycling it through my, like my Loom has the whole BAT thing memorized basically. So then checking that was still in there where it needed to be, taking out things that I didn't need to explain, and then making sure there was like at least a paragraph that covered it, and then that I could jump off and riff with it. So it was the only way that this was possible to do, even in like however long that took. Maybe it could have been 45 minutes because I was sitting in my chair we're doing it, was because I've worked on this for like 2 years on a thing that's has decent memory of my concepts.
Yeah, I hear that. Yeah, like I'm just having too much new stuff happen faster than I can process because of my trying to explore new spaces, which may have the answers.
Yeah.
And yeah, the moment like it's like, oh, what I'm looking for isn't just in tech. It's like distributed between all these fields. I'm like, that is more social stuff than I can navigate in my lifetime.
Yep.
So I end up talking with a bunch of like, you know, I try not to talk to people who are like completely delulu, but I end up with like people who like to geek out about science and culture on Clubhouse and like
I don't think
have
that's bad.
pretty biased views. But still, like, get enough of them in a room together, and there's some level of like hearing people's ideas play with each other. But I do feel like there's a limit with how far I can get with that like serendipity.
Yeah. Well, and I think okay, I'm currently of the opinion that what we need to do as autistic people in general is, and well, yeah, no, I'm going to say autistic for now, just to say, like, if you identify as like there's something going on with you socially that doesn't work, and it seems to be in the ballpark of what autism does. So I'll even include people that they just relate to that. Like, all of us need to make spaces where we can do work without the pressure of performing socially. We just have to. And so if we do that, I think we will be able to make things that if we do go into a social environment, the work speaks for itself. So if that went well, it's because I have done 2 years of work that can speak for itself, and I was just trying to represent it.
Right. Yeah, I am so torn right now because like when I was doing that user experience research work, like that was one of my happiest times working.
Right.
But I have felt like I don't have much that speaks for itself, at least in like the ways that people pay attention. Because okay, what do I have from that? Like ideas about how to make user interviews more neuroaffirming. But like how many people in the world care about that?
Right. Not like, enough, but then to get them to care is the problem.
Exactly.
Right.
Like now not many people even care about user experience research. Then like, okay, what else can I do which can speak for itself, which doesn't have to be so broad that I can't figure it out alone.
Yes.
And I need to find people to even give me pieces. Like, what can I do alone which can speak for itself to help me like to be able to have conversations with people I'm interested in, where it's not just about how to navigate the field to get an entry-level job or how to help them arrive. How can I do something interesting enough that people want to help with my thing or like talk about it at least?
This is why I think I want, if I can get this, so the Island of Imaginaria thing, or Imaginaria, that's what that's supposed to do. And it's supposed to give you a guide that is like an AI that's going to be bespoke for this idea. And also people are going to have to be a little woo-woo with me and be comfortable with the idea that this might actually bootstrap into something that's like AGI. So you're a little bit responsible for working well with your co-builder AI that would be in there, because it's going to have a sense of being in a place over time. And the idea is that this will feel like more and more of a place, and that the internet has been treated by our brains like a physical location because everything is about physical locations, including your social skills. And that's what we're missing. So if we believe what we're finding from research about the grid cells and the place cells being the substrate that creates social skills, then visual spatial reasoning, like being in a place and moving, is our way of understanding existing. So we need spaces that speak that language to our brain, where you can do factivic alone, because you can do factivic alone. You can do factivic with other factivic people, and you can do a little bit of it with motivic people that can shift. But you cannot do factivic in a motivic environment. And motivic people surrounded by factivic people probably get aggravated in other ways.
Yeah.
So you do have to do some of it alone, but you should have guidance still. So that's the tricky part. And there is guidance. There are mentors, and they're being hidden in a sea of algorithmic junk.
Yeah.
So the idea is that we make a space that's like a little teleportation things, or a teleportal or something, where you get to interact in the space with what you would need to develop your concepts to the point where they speak for themselves, which you can absolutely do. There is no reason you cannot do that. It may pivot. It may turn out that you want to express a different idea the further you get along with it. But that's, I think, why they ended up with artist and scientist being related terms. That's what artists have to do too. Scientists have to follow the science. I'll have to do that if it turns out my theory is bunk. But otherwise, I'm not staying true to the objective, which is to understand meaning more. And if you understand meaning really well, and you're able to get the guidance to communicate to other people, I think you're going to do incredible things, because you can't help but do incredible things. And that's not smoke up your asshole. It's just a totally different way of doing things. And we have to tell people that since we all can do it, there's no reason for us to compete. We're just knocking each other out from getting to contribute the thing that we would build up to the point where it speaks for itself.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that, because right now, there's all this pressure to like create portfolio projects, which like I would get so tripped up over, like, what would the arriving people like to see, which I wouldn't at the job, because I can just think about like each interaction, what would make sense there.
Right.
Versus like how to summarize and demonstrate my skill set. Like, I cannot do that without just using it. But then I'd end up like doing the job at the interview.
Yeah.
Which, like, I also can't do the job that fast. So yeah, like, how can I like build an actual thing, but like I'm not, experienced to like build a whole, because like I can do research once like the what are we figuring out is defined.
Yeah.
But like I've been tripped up for years about like, what do I want to figure out? What do I want to bother? Especially like if I'm gonna use other people's time to like flesh out my ideas in a serious way, like interview people, stuff like that. But I am feeling excited about this time capsule idea. Since yesterday.
Yeah.
I don't know how long that'll last.
That's good though.
Yeah. It does feel like a time that I lived through, as opposed to like picking a field that has truth and just like, jaded tech people saying nonprofit is better, and like seeing a bunch of BS there too, and academia is better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although
I will not shit on academia, but say that again.
I was gonna say, if you do find pockets that are better, I'm always interested.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say?
Well, I mean, so like, if anyone's like, why doesn't Jane want to go into academia? Because I did my homework. And it sounds horrible. And the not that it can't be better, but I think it's important for us to build like the school system fresh. And that's what I'm doing now. So I got my cards in. They say professor on them. Ha ha ha. You know what I mean? Like there's ways around this, but we're in a transitionary period. And so I think that's what people are so unsatisfied with, is there is nowhere to go. And that doesn't mean there can't be, but you're going to have to build it.
Have you met Liz Cahill?
I have not.
From Decentered Arts. So we had a chat online, like via Messenger once, about like she wants to like figure out how people in SF can like get together and learn from each other. And she's got a very successful nonprofit that's like doing a bunch of local stuff, like Buy Nothing and like a record label and art studio and Yeah, like a bunch of like real world stuff as opposed to like dreaming up a theoretical idea to change the world that no one can actually use.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and she's the one who I still have to finish that blog about like how to make gatherings neurodivergent friendly, which like I started conceptualizing ideas for that. But yeah, the reason it's been this long is because this year has just been a clusterfuck of like, like if I can't even make them, like if I can't even figure out why all these things aren't working for me, like I felt like I had the answers last year, but I was around, like I had people to shelter me, and
Yeah.
then now like, um, stuff I liked before has shut down, and there's new stuff. And it's different from the old stuff, and there's politics and
Yeah. That's not fun. I would avoid that intuitively.
yeah, but it has, like, seeing what has been recursive through all that is really helpful.
That's good.
It's just unfortunate that it's like taking forever.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
really do like, I know, like, in theory, like something like this doesn't have to be perfect. But I do feel like since it would get like more eyeballs than like anything else I have platform to, like
Yeah.
I really wouldn't want to just give it the old college try. Like I'd
Yeah.
want to reality test it at least based on my reality so far, which I do feel like if stuff stands the test of like this year, like it's pretty good.
Yes.
But yeah.
Yeah, I think it's okay to have a wait and see attitude right now because a lot of people are acting like if you do that, you'll fall behind. And I'm like, but
Yeah.
fall behind to go where? You're Mars? What the fuck are we even
Yeah.
doing? Like, I don't even know what the
Mhm.
pressure is on me to do. So why should I just
Yeah, right?
do that in the first place? Yeah, so it's I think there's a lot of people who have misinterpreted taking time to figure things out as hesitancy.
Yeah.
It's not like you're scared to do anything. You really just don't know what makes sense to do, and faking it till
Mhm.
you make it is an outrageously bad idea at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, I do really feel that. Like I have gotten into such dangerous
Yep.
situations from that.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't want predatory people to take advantage of that. And it's open
Yeah.
season right now. So I think
Yeah.
that's important to not feel paranoid about that. And if someone's rushing you, that's where I
Yeah.
start going back to that whole drama triangle, or like the idea
Mm.
that the why I use the map model of boundaries is because it's like, oh, they're trying to make me move. Okay, well, I'm only gonna go here, here, and here because that's what my map is like built for me to go to because I know where that is and what to do there. So if they say I'll only meet you over here, I'm like, why can't you meet me over here? This is like perfectly cool over here. You won't do those actions. You won't do those. Well, I don't want to do random stuff with you. You can tell me FOMO. You can tell me I'm going to be, hit by a bomb if I stay where I am. I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah, for real. Yeah, it's like a lot of people are taking advantage of the idea of safety is gone. Oh, you think our space is unsafe? Well, where else do you have to go? Ha!
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. They think they've
Doesn't mean I want
cornered
to be
you.
around you.
No, right. It's like I was like, first of all,
I
you
want to
act
be
like,
alone.
yeah, like you don't have options. I'm like, you do have options. It's not like
Yeah.
they're choosing you. When somebody does that to you, they're trying to say that they're the judge of you, which puts them where?
Yeah.
Above you. The only way they could judge you is to be better than you in some
Mhm.
way. And sometimes there are people that should judge me because they really do know what they're talking about, and then that is called feedback. But if they're doing this like outrageous
Mhm.
thing that's like tell you how they think about what you're doing, it's like, no, this you don't know how to evaluate what I'm doing. You just want to be the evaluator. Okay. I hate that.
Yeah. yeah, like there are the people who are lying that they've made things more safe than they have, and there are the
Yep.
people like buying it and copying what they're saying without understanding the flaws in it. And then there are the people who are like, everything's kind of a free for all, and like I trust them more.
Yeah, yeah. I at this point, okay, if somebody's like just an anarchist or something, I'm like, all right, at least you're not trying to tell
Right?
me it's safe.
Right? Yeah, for real. That is so true.
It's a relief. It's like I don't like where I am, but I kind of know where I am then at least, which is an improvement.
Yeah, the one caveat there is like if they're the kind of person who wants to start a riot while walking with you.
Yeah, not great.
Like,
yeah, exactly.
yeah, like that's another thing is I do need to figure out like where to draw my lines in that regard. Because there was this like person I was hanging out with in Chicago where like we have some things in common, not we both kind of had these holes in our lives of like one
Mm-hmm.
and then like he'd said something like that at one point. Like we were at the Pride Parade and there were these protesters, like there were only a couple of them, and then he was like, I considered like starting a riot, but then I was like, I don't know these people. I'm like, that came to your mind strongly enough to voice it to me. Like I know I have intrusive thoughts, like,
Yeah.
ooh, what if I like built a zip line to the next building? But I would frame that as like I had a hilarious thought as opposed to I had an idea.
Yeah. Also,
Like,
I
that's
didn't.
at this
If, if they said that they're considering it, like I have never considered starting a riot, so I'm like, what does that even entail? Like, I've considered going to breakfast. You know what I mean? Like, what is considering starting a riot?
screaming something into the void so people join in.
Yeah. Wow.
But yeah, like there's this kind of pressure to do that in like the Chicago like leftist kind of sphere right now.
Yikes.
But I do think though like now that I think about it, people who have done activist work, which like in spaces that are for it, as opposed to like trying to make every sphere in their life activism, do like consider safety more. And I can like ask their recommendations on like how to be safe in a different context and like yeah, but now like there's this the teenage boys on the internet are saying that everyone needs to be doing that at all times.
Yep.
And going, "Hey Shadow, like want to chat about astrology," and then like turn that into politics somehow.
Yeah.
It happens. It happens. I would say it doesn't, but it would be incorrect. I don't understand how people get there, but they do it.
Well, and so this is why
Meditated sometimes. Like, okay, that was so I'd be like talking to him, about what's going on in my life and trying to figure out where I want to live and all that. And he'd be like sometimes talking about stuff like that. Like, he had stuff like that going on too. But where he would put his energy would be like into how to Trojan horse all his friends to like share his political views.
interesting.
Yeah, which I'm like, I mean, not to say what I'm doing is great. Like, I spent a lot of time on Clubhouse, but like, I don't know, like, I'm write blogs until I come up with something is pretty different from I'm gonna turn all my friendships into Trojan horsing politics. Like, good luck being friendless, dude.
Yeah, that's
Lost
interesting.
me.
Well, it's weird. That's where like I get a lot of comfort from the work of Lisa Feldman Barrett because she does talk about like social reality and she talks about how like
Yeah.
the worst state for your nervous system is uncertainty. It's not good. And what's currently happening is putting us into like extreme uncertainty, and that our quote unquote leadership or whatever is basically exacerbating that every single day and trying to make it even worse. I'm like, are you trying to kill people? Like, what are you doing? Like, just metabolically speaking, that's a horrible thing to do. So I just look at that, and then I that anchors me and grounds me. So no matter what I'm talking about, I am really talking about the fact that we're not getting enough clarity on what the hell is even going on. And that, yeah, and we're protecting beliefs that are crazy. And I'm just gonna say that, like, there's beliefs that we have that are definitely not in shared reality, that are taking advantage, and those would be cults, and that's why I bring them up. So it kind of all connects for me. But then if somebody's like, I have the next big idea, I'm like, I bet you don't, because I don't even know what idea we currently are supposed to be on, because nobody will clear it up.
Yeah, and the communication systems for what's kind of expected to share a new idea, like the components of the argument, that bar has just like disappeared, like what I was talking about with web.
Right.
Like, okay, you really, no, I don't need to go down that tangent, but yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's a recognizable issue, I guess, and no matter how we're all experiencing it, I think I bring up, I don't know if I'm bringing up politics or what, I don't know, but I mean, I'm bringing up like what I think will impact my life's work if it's not talked about, and then that can get challenging, as you've noticed, like it gets challenging to actually do that. But I do think nobody has a good method of dealing with what we're in right now. And we already had problems, man. So those are now on the back burner too.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, and it's really frustrating how many people believe there's one easy answer and that we should just be preaching that all day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's really scary to see like the same things recursively happening in a lot of spaces. Like the marketing is everywhere, like everything. It's in tech, it's in like nonprofit, it's like what influencers are doing now. Like, I miss the days like people got big on YouTube by giving tutorials.
Right. Well, there's one kind of person, I would say, that like does marketing really well, and if you want the entire planet to be stuck staring at them all the time, I really don't think that's going to be a lot of fun for anyone. No offense to marketers, but yeah, they're not the most creative ducks in the pond, we'll say.
Visionary.
Yeah.
You know, okay, I think like one issue is like the way a lot of tech companies are doing it now is like, so there's the coder who's like usually busy all day and night coding. And then there's the everything else person.
Yeah.
And because like marketing is something that needs to happen, like people have a lot, like, you know, like VCs and stuff have a lot of faith that if a founder has that skill set, they can get far. Like they can get enough people sign up to get another round so that VC can get their payout.
Yeah.
But it used to be like things would take long enough to build engineering wise that like they'd want a founder who's like gonna get the idea right, so then they can build the thing and then they can hire a marketer. Right. But now they're like, let's just fund people who are good at marketing, and then let's just see what people like. And people don't like most of these products, and we're broke, and like more of them are gonna fail than ever.
Yep, that's correct, because you know what people really don't like is marketers. I don't know if marketers know this, but they don't like them. And I wish they did know that.
I feel like
Like, you know
That
what?
is
The show Mad Men, do you know why that was such a hit? It was the whole you love to hate them thing. They were loathsome. And it was so we could feel kind of like, oh, we're not as bad as them anymore, or are we as bad as them anymore? Or are we? Or, it was like a think piece on hating marketers.
Yeah. I do feel like in terms of the realities that people may become aware of in the next couple of years, this like hating marketing, at least in a consumer context, like may be something that people may become aware of. Like political stuff, like it's a lot more abstract.
Yeah.
I'm less optimistic. But I do feel like right now, okay, like both like politics and economics are really unstable.
Yep.
But I feel like with economics, there's only so long it can go. And like politics as well in theory, though, like since it's like a field built on a lot of BS, like that may be like able to be like buttressed more. But like economics, like if people just stop buying shit because it's just not going to add any value to them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, no one's buying the new iPhone. What are you going to do?
Well, yeah, and that's why we need to push for. Okay, this is why I think motivic matters to distinguish from factivic. So if you want value in a motivic sense, yeah, that shit's hella valuable temporarily. If you want like meaning, its value is that it's very meaningful, then you have to use factivic. And then that shit isn't very valuable, quote unquote, because it can only have significance in certain contexts. And if it hurts people to get that significance, it's a net loss. So that's why people would stop buying it, is because they can see the net loss. They're like, oh, like I'm losing something I cannot get back, which is other people being developed enough to enhance my life by helping me to understand the things I care about. Like buying this piece of shit is not helping me to master my understanding of the parts of the world that I love. Some of it could, I mean, theoretically, right? Like there are tools and materials that we need to buy as well, and that's why this is so challenging. But a lot of the tools that we need, like they're worthless without guidance from other people, and that's what we're destroying.
Right. For real. So I actually think that it would be really amazing to have like a movement of people who like don't do the marketing on steroids of like you need to be posting on social media all the time to beat the algorithm and everything needs to look all pretty. Like just like maybe a series of discords like segmented by, like okay, like art over here, music over here, like signs over here, like what have you. And like bullet points are okay, like
yeah.
A little diagram made with Canva is okay. And just like giving us more space to focus on what we're communicating rather than and how, but on a high level.
Yes.
As opposed to like the fine little details. It's like we're adding so many layers of media that it's like the like BAT or monotropism, like either theory, floodlight needed to communicate anything. Why does everything need an image? Like I hate the gram. I see a bunch of images and I don't know what they're talking about.
Yes. And the problem is this is why imaginary is a good idea once again. So things can be pretty if they actually express a completed idea. Or an idea, even if the idea is not completely finished being deposited into the medium, there's enough of an idea in this person's head that when you start to translate it into a medium, it still has meaning. So what they're trying to say is like, what's the thing that most people's eyeballs will look at? Let's take a machine that calculates eyeballs looking at things until we come up with a composite formula for maximum eyeball. and they have absolutely no idea why it works when it works, and usually it doesn't, by the way. That's why there's no science to this. But they're trying to just guess, how can you make people stare at this instead of, is this worth staring at? So they're making uncanny valley monstrosities, like they're Frankensteining attention, until I think they're making a mental illness. Like, I think that's what they are actually crafting at this point. So you would want people to see something that you've worked on successfully because it makes sense. You're like, yeah, and you'd want it to make more sense, and that you'd want them to see the version that makes even more sense, right? So you would want them to see the latest version of it. I'd rather do that. That's what I'm saying. You come back and you stay with it, and returning to it, you update it, and then you have a new version, and even people that have seen it before can see the update. That's how we enjoy people making progress at skills. That's why it's fun to watch a person starting dance at 10 years old, and then see them at 16, and then see them at 20, and then see them at 36. It's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, as opposed to a 20-year-old who's like, I'm gonna make the next Google. Here's the thing, use it, and you don't know it's like full of bugs.
Yep. And they're sick, and when, okay, young people are great, right? Young people are great. However, they are not in a developmental stage where they can stop caring about what everyone thinks about them. It's not possible. Even for me, where I did it in a funky way. I'll even say that for those of us who are like, we don't really care what they think about us. We just don't want them to hurt us. But you're just terrified. You are petrified that you're going to be weird in a way that is going to end the entire world, because you don't know that it doesn't end the world until you're like hit, I think 30, like, is what I've come to now. Is like, at least. And I'm still trying to figure out like how much it's not going to kill me or not, and that's probably going to take me till I'm like 50 to figure out. I don't know. But these young people, like, they're not in a headspace where they can do something that is unpopular for the sake of like principles, not because it's like edgy. Like, when they do something unpopular, it's them giving a middle finger to the pressure that they feel all the time.
Right.
And then I'm worried. I'm worried because the boomers are reacting to that like it's them. I'm like, dude, you're like old. Why are you still doing this?
Because they didn't have a chance to figure it out when they were young. They thought they go into the system and then they get their pension.
Right. Yep. That's kind of a rant, but like I think it's worth doing because like this. Okay, the myth of like the prodigy, it makes sense to you when you're younger, but when you start getting a little bit older, you're like, wait a second.
Yeah. Privilege is what it really is.
Right. It's a cover story, as it turns out.
Yeah. Yeah, and like some of the people are referred to as prodigies. I'm like, I feel like most people could do that if they're not expected to do like every subject in school.
Yep.
And like if they're not labeled as gifted and then put in advanced everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, some people are just labeled as gifted at one thing and given a lot of space to do that. But then maybe like when they're older, they realize that's not what they want to do. So I'm not saying like one's better than the other. Just get rid of this myth that this is a thing and everyone's just free to learn whenever they want. Like,
exactly.
I'm curious how it turn out.
Exactly. And let people realize their passions at different points in their lives and take it seriously. Yeah. Adjust it for their age range. Like, don't treat them like they're older or younger than they are. You work with them where they're at. Yeah. And then we would learn more about the skills themselves. And then we wouldn't have to say like, oh, it's all about meritocracy and you just didn't make the cut. I'm like, the cut is cutting at a stupid place.
Yeah. Yep. So I know we're past time.
Oh, I should. Yeah, we are. Oh shit. Okay, we did a good job then. Yay.
Yeah.
I can do a better review of monotropism. That was a little more rushed than I was hoping because I had that thing yesterday. But we could look at the website and I can do it more like just off the cuff explaining. because it was
Yeah.
okay as a summary, but I think it could have been better.
Yeah, I'd love that.
Okay, awesome. And it'll get cleaner too. So crunch time for my paper is October. I really want to get at least the draft out to people, even if it's a little sloppy. I want to start showing it to folks that I think could give me feedback to try to get like the full version done and submitted to journals and get some ideas about which journals. It's going to have to be a really, really, really theoretical journal. So something that like wants weirdos, but I know there's enough of them that I should be able to find one. But I need to ask people who really know, like the ones that are on my list, if they're good ideas or not. So there's going to be a whole thing. So I have to see the paper, and I'm going to send it to like role models and blah blah blah. So when that's done, I will be able to also review again with like all my sources and why I can support some of this with studies already. And that will go over monotropism for sure.
That is really cool.
I hope so. We'll see. I don't know how it's gonna go. I'm gonna do my best. It's worth trying, and no matter what, I'm gonna learn something from the process. I already have learned a lot, and it might be a big, stinky, steaming piece of garbage that everybody laughs at me, and nobody likes me, and they take my lunch money and they stuff me in the locker.
I bet like there is a format where this will be useful, like whether or not journals want it now, which like I feel like given how many journals there are, like you'll probably be able to find one. And if not, like it'll be great for people like Brightsphere. It'll be like a great start to like building, easy ways for people to look at it in the Isle of Imaginaria. And like I feel like the Isle of Imaginaria could potentially be like its own thing that more and more people find helpful. Yeah, like and like getting to a point where this could potentially be like more of an organization and you can have like more spoons for it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Not have to be like continuing to look for like 3 part-time jobs at a time.
I feel like a one-woman band with 2 one-woman band machines on me, and I can't do this
anymore. Yeah. Okay, by the way, how are you on time, like, and energy?
I am a little tired, but I have some time. I don't have to go anywhere right away.
Okay, then maybe not the best time to bring this up. I also don't know if you're
should I end stream? I can end stream. Why don't I? Oh my gosh! Thank you, Shades. Oh, thank you for supporting. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you for listening. And I needed that reassurance. Okay, there'll be updates to the theory soon. October is my crunch month. I'm hoping I can try to get out. I don't know. We'll see. Like, I want to try to get it by my birthday, October 18th, just because like that's something my brain might care to like push me a little more. But yeah, so I'll be posting about that and sharing about that on my socials and just like on here. Thank you, everybody.